All right, let's party. Welcome to another edition of the New Breed Podcast, because new metal isn't just a kind of music, it's a lifestyle. I'm one half of your hosting duo, J Horse Cow. With me, I have my partner in crime, the notorious TIM, Tim Anderson Jr. Tim, how's it going this wonderful day?
Great, man. Great day.
Tim is really, really excited. And back again, we have someone who is very quickly going to lap Adam Easterling as our celebrity irregular regular. We have the lead singer of ZoneZero and a bazillion other bands, Mr. Jordan Sloan. Jordan, thanks for joining.
I'm glad to be here.
We are glad to have you once again. All right, so for this week's episode, we are going to be doing a deep dive into the band Nothingface and their 2000 album Violence, which I believe is their third. We are going to do this one a little bit differently, though. Typically, when Tim and I do these, we go through song by song. We've had Jordan on the show twice before, so we know it's going to be an open, and we're going to go in a couple of different directions conversationally, so we're not going to follow the whole track one, track two, track three. We're really just going to bounce around and see where things take us. So Tim, before you go into all the details, I just have one question for the both of you. How absolutely crushing is the new Cannibal Corpse album?
And it's insane. Oh my God. Like,
I put it on today and I just was looking at my head unit while I was driving, just giggling. Like, are you kidding me?
Like, I think what they lost with Pat, Eric Rutan just doubled that immediately. I knew when they were because I kind of knew from them touring with him that they were gonna he was gonna be involved in some way. I was like, I know he's gonna at least produce it, but is Rob gonna handle both guitar parts this time, or what's gonna happen? Then they're like, oh, we just have Eric Rutan in the band now, and I was like, oh, I could have just fucking told you that. And so I was immediately just like, okay, cool. So this album's about to be just absolutely crushing, and it is so good. It's their best addition of a member since Corpse Grinder. So
absolutely.
When we talk about we were talking about Fear Factory before we started recording, right? And Dino is one of those just riff monsters, right? Who, if he touches it, there's going to be some insane left-hand control chugging riffs, and Rutan is in the same bucket. Absolutely. Right? Every Hate Eternal album is just a wall of insanity.
Oh my God.
And
yeah.
Hate Eternal and this stuff, and I think he's played with Morbid Angel and
he was in Morbid Angel during the Domination era, I think.
My Lord. And you listen to the interview with this guy, and he's a Birds fan, and he's just about as friendly as the day is long, and you're like, there's no way this music comes out of this guy.
Oh yeah, I tell you what, they Cannibal Corpse came through with Hate Eternal and Harm's Way in the end of 2018, and it was basically the Metal Blade tour. Basically, it was just their bands and stuff, and I'd been listening to Hate Eternal. I'm like, man, I finally get to see these guys live, and he's they're just doing an early sound check. People are letting. I kind of got in early because Knox works shows around here, and so he had he always calls on friends to help load in. He's like, oh, if you want to work, I'll put you to work helping load bands in and stuff. And so I just kind of showed up, and they were going to sound check, and he was wearing a shirt that it was the Sam Adams font, but it said Sam Loomis, and it was Loomis from Halloween. And it was the coolest shirt. It was the sickest shirt ever. And I stopped and I was just like, yo, that is such a cool shirt. And he just goes, yeah, thanks, man. And just doesn't say thanks and then walks away. He turns around and he's like, oh yeah, it's sick, isn't it? My wife bought me this shirt. And it's just the coolest little interaction. And I was like, damn, man. I was like, have you seen the new Halloween? He's like, no, how is it? And is conversing with me. And I was like, it's incredible. I was like, who the fuck am I sitting here telling you about the new Halloween film? And then we just got done talking. He's like, hey man, I gotta go. It was real nice talking to you. And it was just the most polite person.
Right.
And it throws you off with his voice because he just sounds like he's about to beat you to death with gabagool somehow. He's just I don't know what the ton of the he just talks like this. And he's terrifying, but he's the sweetest guy.
It's kind of wild.
Really. Wait, you talking about Rutan or Corpse Grinder?
Rutan.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, okay.
Well, Corpse Grinder, from what I hear, is actually cool. Knox's roommate, I guess, had drinks with him after a show one night at the bar, and he's just a gentle giant. And I think they told me about their tour writer and stuff they have, and how they're just old guys now on tour because they're yeah, well, all we need is some cases of water, this stuff. We're gonna start making dinner before we go on. That way, it'll be ready when we get off stage. And then and they were grab us a Christmas ornament. Because we have a little tree on the butt. It's just stuff like that, and I was like, man, this is the most old guy list possible.
Right.
So case of water, some Metamucil.
Some Metamucil,
case of water,
some Pedialyte,
case of water, some beer. ginkgo biloba,
Yeah.
Yeah. Get some kombucha. What is with the millennial diet where it's all about destroying your insides? You got kombucha, you got the quinoa. It's like all stuff that will just destroy your GI tract.
My girlfriend just started drinking kombucha like after the whole entire time. We're like, this stuff is like disgusting. She's like, well, I bought some and I am destroyed. I was like, yeah, I bet you are.
What is that shit again?
It's like,
I don't know. It's like
a fermented, like a mushroom or something, right? Like it's a tea, but Tim, it's kind of like vinegary.
Like what I'm gonna just eat a crave case from White Castle and call it a day. that's how I'm gonna clean out my insides.
Right. And that's much more appealing to your palate.
It really is.
Anyway, I've taken us way down a left field. Okay, Tim, take us back. Let's talk about the history of violence.
Well, I want to go into this first because we were talking yesterday. This was the hardest record for me to describe. I don't know why, because it's one of my favorite records ever. But it's just so hard to describe. Like these tracks, I'm like, every track we describe, you two are going first because mine are terrible. I'm just like, oh, that chorus is great. But like, the record's so good, I just can't describe it.
Which I kind of wonder. So, Tim, was this one of well, I'll start with you, right? Was this record one that you actively searched out? Like, did you know who Nothingface was? Did you know this was their newest album? Like, did you have Pacifier? Did you have, what is it? Something to Audio Everyday Atrocity or something?
Yeah,
like
Audio
that,
Guide
right?
Everyday Atrocity.
There you go.
Yeah.
Like, was this something you said, oh, the new Nothingface, and you bought it? Or was it just you saw it and picked it up?
No. So I was at a show at the Electric Factory one night and people were handing out, it was actually TVT people were handing out the two song promos. It was Bleeder and Make Your Own Bones. They had a promo and we put it in the CD player on the way home. And I was like, yo, what is this? And ever since then, that's been my favorite record for a while. Not my favorite record, but one of my favorite records, man. Because as soon as Bleeder came, or actually Make Your Own Bones was on first for some reason. I don't know why
that
they
intro
did that.
Just punches you right out of the gate.
It's so fucking good.
It's so good. Like as soon as I put that record on, I'm instantly like waiting for it. Like I'm a dork still, and I keep CDs in my car because like I'm apparently too poor to buy one of those things where you can charge your phone and then listen to music at the same time. So I'm like, it's one or the other. And so I like normally on my way to work, I'm have my phone on the charger and I'm like, cool, time to pop it. Like I think like the self-titled Sugar Ray is in there right now because it's fucking getting warm outside and I need the tunes. And so but I have Violence in there like at all times. It's always going to be in my rotation. And as soon as I put that in, I just wait for it. And then I hear the and I just instantly I'm like, cool, like I'm going to get my ass kicked. Like I know it already.
And Jordan,
so
same question. Was this one that you knew who Nothingface was and you picked up the album, or how did this album come into your orbit?
It's funny enough that they're like, this is my favorite like new metal record. I always say like, oh, Slipknot self-title is my favorite record of all time. And then I have like the favorite like actual new metal record, because there's a lot of people who are like, Slipknot's not new metal, whatever. And so I got into Violence and Nothingface really late. Like I was maybe in high school. Like I had loved Slipknot since I was like 11 years old, but I was in high school, and it was actually discovering them from the Freddy vs. Jason soundtrack and then going backwards. And so I was like, because they didn't have anything after Skeletons, I'm like, well, I guess this band just kind of broke up, whatever. And then I went back and listened to a bunch of stuff and found like the music videos on YouTube and like the Pacifier video and stuff like that. And then finding Violence, and then I listened to it and was instantly just like, oh my god, this is and like Tim said, like I can't describe this record. It's like it's a weird genre, because it all makes sense in a grand scheme of things. Like you listen to the whole record, you're like, okay, that's a Nothingface record. But like you sit there and try to diversify and go, well, what makes it a Nothingface record? Is it like new metal riffs? Is it like groove metal stuff? Is it like all these weird things they put into it? And it's just really hard to describe, but I think that's what made them stand out, and I think that's why they have this like a cult following now. So,
dude, you described it perfectly, right? I mean,
like, so I kind of feel the same way. So I had never heard this album until we were doing this deep dive. I'd never heard it. Wow. I mean, I'd seen it. I've seen them live. I had the first two albums. I saw them. I think it was Tattoo the Earth. So I never listened to this album, and I put it in. And at first I was kind of like, ugh, really? And then I listened to it again. And then I listened to it again. And I caught myself. The first track where I noticed that I was really into it and didn't realize I was into it was Can't Wait for Violence, where I caught myself tapping my feet. And when I'm not paying attention and I'm tapping my foot, that's where I'm kind of like, oh, yeah, this is it's kind of like earwormy. And I've had the first 2 songs stuck in my head, the intro, and then I think it's one of the choruses for the second song. And I went back and listened to it this morning. I was really paying attention. I'm like, this is a well put together record. It's solid all the way through. I mean, the vocals work, the guitar and the drums work. You know who Matt actually reminds me of after I listened to it a couple times? She Looks So Good in Red era, Mean Pete. Remembering Never. If you go back and listen to Big Jim's Mistake and then you listen to half this album, you'll hear like the similarities, like when they hit the clean notes.
Oh, wow.
I heard Pete and it was bothering me for 2 days. I'm like, who does that sound like? God damn it, I know who this is. And I had to like walk around the house just like humming shit in my head. And I went, Bean Pete. That's where I got it.
Well, dude, you nailed it because the chorus of Bleeder is one of the highlights of the record for me. I mean, my eye, what's he say again, Jordan? My eyes see everything I want them to. I just don't want them to see you. Like, it's fucking incredible. It's the way that they put these like lyrical stuff, or the way he does it, is just great because like his lyrics are also very dark.
Yeah, that was one of the things I noticed. It is super dark, right?
Very dark, man.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely like post breakup type material, right? Like I'm a little bit angry, which is, people want to rail on song lyrics and they don't realize that art is representative of the time that it was created and the environment it was created in, right? And like Daryl from Glassjaw came out as a straight edge kid coming out of a breakup. Of course, everything you ever wanted to know about Silence is just angry and visceral and pissed off and like, oh, well, it's misogynist. Well, it was representative of a time when he just got dumped and he was kind of in a bad mood. So anybody who's ever been dumped can kind of go, yeah, I get it. Like, I get it.
Plus that record just fucking slaps. That record's incredible.
It's still, I mean, there is not one bad track on that album, and that's something to say.
That's a big mulligan on Roadrunner too. Like the fact that they didn't push that record enough, and then it was funny enough. Glassjaw was like, "Steal our record, please. Like, don't go buy it. Don't go give this label. Like, please just take it. I don't give a shit." And it's so funny. But
yeah, and that was that story, Jordan, wasn't it? They had Slipknot come out at the same time, and they had Nickelback, and they could have hit for all 3, and instead they picked those 2, and they let Glassjaw just kind of wither, and they didn't see like you look at some of those shows on YouTube, like when they were just playing off the Kiss Kiss Bang Bang EP. It was, excuse me, it was comparable to like VOD at the PWAC circa like Still era, right? It was like there was 1,000 people there. It's like, well, why didn't Roadrunner just say, and Ross Robinson produced it, so it's like, maybe we should go down this path. Maybe there's something there. I don't know why they just kind of just.
Who has a phone next to the computer? All of us.
Perhaps is there a buzzing somewhere?
Was there a buzz?
Yeah, there's a buzz.
I will toss mine away. I don't need it.
Yeah, I just did too.
I hate that. I discovered that lately. I'll be recording something, like recording music, and I'll stop playing my guitar, and I'll hear like grrr, like a buzzing, and I'm like, what the oh, idiot! And I'll have to like throw my phone out of the way.
Do you guys both have Androids, don't you?
Yeah.
No, I have iPhone.
Oh, do you? Android. It's probably Jay's phone.
It's definitely my phone.
Yeah, I was starting to hear it at the beginning, and then I heard it again. I was like, yeah, that's definitely not my iPhone.
Yeah, it's mine. My bad. My charger's right next to my speaker. So Tim, let's take us into violence, right? Take us into some of the story behind it.
And I do want to get this off. Since Jordan is young, I'll let him get away with the slaps comment because goddamn, do I hate that term.
I was trying to say, I usually say like that shit hits or whatever, but I was like, duh, slaps, and that's the first word that popped in my head.
Nah, that's all right. If Jay would have said slaps, I would have been like, stop it.
All of a sudden the light goes off. I'm like, Tim, where'd you go? Where's the episode?
My go-to is like that shit goes, and I say that a lot, and I'm like, you gotta knock that off.
Nah, that's fine. I'm just fucking with you. All right, so Nothingface Violence released September 5th, 2000 through TVT Records, produced by Drew Mazurek. Recorded at the Armory Studios in Vancouver, Canada. It's funny, I was reading about I guess Matt put out like this like journal thing, and he was talking about the recording. He was like, yeah, on the days where like we're done recording for the day, we would walk through Vancouver and they have like 50 porn shops. So apparently there's just like 1 million porn shops in like Vancouver.
You think it's because of the rain?
Probably. It's probably
because it's right across. It's right near Seattle, so it's like I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, they get like 100 inches of rain like a year. It's
that's
like
kind of insane.
Dude.
That's really insane.
Yeah, and the only reason I know that is because of that show alone. You ever see that? It's always in Vancouver Island, and it's literally raining like every goddamn time the camera's on. It's hilarious. Anyway, yeah, you know what? I didn't know that Nothingface was out of Washington D.C. To me, it seems like they're a band that would have been out of like the like East Coast, like a. They just look to me. I mean, Washington D.C. is East Coast, but you know,
You're thinking like Northeast?
yeah, like a more of like a Philly, New York kind of band. They just have like that angst and the anger. You know what I mean? But I
They
guess
always felt like a New York band to me. So
yeah. It's like you would
Yeah.
think they came out of like upstate New York or something where everything's just shitty and they're just pissed off all the time. You know what I mean? But it makes sense either way. Also, the album only sold 87,000 copies, so apparently TVT called it like a failure. But I kind of feel like at this time when this was coming out, like you had more bands doing like bigger things. Like what was Iowa out in 2000?
Yep. Iowa, Toxicity. Toxicity, right? Yeah. That was 2000.
Hybrid Theory, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you had all them kind of records like
Or wait a minute.
overshadowing, I kind of think.
Was that 2000? No, Iowa was 2001. It was right
They were
around
both
9/11.
2001.
Yeah, it was 2001.
Hybrid Theory was 2000 at least.
It has to be, right? Yeah, I kind of feel like this album got overlooked for some reason. I kind of feel like TVT just didn't put them on the right tours, to tell you the truth.
That's probably
Yeah.
part of it. TVT notoriously didn't support their bands the way they should have.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're up there with like Prosthetic Records is one of those labels that gets a really, really bad rap for not taking care of their people. But also, I mean, from someone who was not a big Nothingface fan, right? The album is great, but this is second wave new metal heading into third, right? So this is where I think the big thing for me, the reason why new metal was so awesome when it first came out, because all the bands were different but the same.
Yeah.
Whereas this is getting to the point where everything is becoming the same but different. If that makes any sense.
No.
I mean,
definitely.
Look, let's be honest here. The guitar work is amazing.
Yeah,
His voice is great.
it is.
Right. These are good songs, but I just don't think there was enough. Like, there was no weirdness. Like, there was no like weird aesthetic or weird sound, or like, you know, there was no like fucking bongos in the middle of nowhere, which kind of made them different from everybody else. They were trading solely on the quality of the music they put out, which back then, let's be honest here, right? Some of those bands that got picked up and signed were not necessarily the best bands in the world quality wise. They had some weird sort of aesthetic going on.
Well, what
There's
is that
some bands-
saying? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, there's a lot, and it's funny. There are a lot of bands that I see in these new metal groups that I have never like. I go pretty deep into like some of the like lower tier new metal bands and stuff like that, and our drummer actually makes Mike actually kind of rags on me for it. He's always like, man, you just know so much useless dumb shit about all these old new metal bands, and it's so funny. But there's some bands that people talk about that I'm like, how do you know this? How do you know who this band is? And like, oh, they should have been big. They should have been so big. And I listen to it. I'm like, no, they shouldn't have. And I'm very glad. Like, but however, I do think the complete opposite about Nothingface. I think that Nothingface deserved to be way bigger than they were. Like, there was something there and it's, I don't know. But I also am a part of this Nothingface, like, I think it's called like Nothingface Army or something like that on Facebook. And it's just this weird group for people who just love Nothingface like way too much. And it's okay, like it's totally fine. But all they do is they sit there and go, well, I sat there and pestered Tom Maxwell today and still nothing. We're not getting any unreleased stuff. I'm like, you got to leave that man alone.
Right?
Like, for the love of God, like, it's been like 16 years since they recorded anything and it's not coming out. Like, I hate to tell you, but it's not coming. And they're like, yeah, well, like, I feel like he's an asshole for not giving us this unreleased music. And I'm like, he owes you nothing. So, like,
what happened with the band, Jordan? Did they just kind of because I know Matt Holt had some substance issues, right? Like in the later record, I think the record after this, I think they came out and they really they're not happy with it. What happened? Did they just kind of implode?
Like, after, like, they did like Skeletons and they did like that, like the Skeleton Cycle. And I think they took a break in like 2004. And like, I think they didn't really get a whole lot of label backing and stuff. And so they're like, well, we're just kind of going to like take a hiatus for, we don't even know how long. And then it was like, they kept talking about like a record in 2005 and they had like an album title for it. I forget. I think it might have been called like something like The Sickness or something like that. And, like never got even like started, and no one ever like they didn't even start recording it. And like I think at one point, like they had the bass player who was in Deadlights be their bass
Mhm.
player, and they were like writing new stuff, and there's like some demos floating around here and there. But I think I read this after a while, they were like the three guys recorded a lot of stuff without Matt because he moved, or they moved away from him, and they sent him stuff and was like, okay, cool, you do vocals over this and get it finished, then we'll start talking about demos and shows and stuff again. And then they said after a while they just stopped hearing from him, like they didn't know how to get in contact with Matt, and they never heard from him again.
Huh.
And it was just kind of weird. Like it was like 2009, like, yeah, we just stopped hearing from him. He stopped sending stuff back and forth, and we have like next to nothing. And there's like a few ideas that I think they had roughly done and ready to go to the studio with. And then that's they have like an album's worth of demos, and that's what everyone's like, this needs to get released. And I'm like, maybe it doesn't, maybe it just needs to stay put. Like, because if it's not as good now as you think it's going to be, you're going to be disappointed with it, and you're going to be like, well, I thought Nothingface was going to be better than this. I'm like, yeah, but maybe it's better you just sit there and like want it instead of having it actually be there.
Right.
So like maybe because it gives you some sort of like imagination, like you're like, oh man, I wonder what that would have sounded like. And that actually was kind of what I thought when we talked about before, how I said back in 2005 bands were doing the metalcore thing. I was like, I wonder how they would have evolved into that. I wonder how they would have taken their sound into that next wave, the new wave of American heavy metal stuff. I wonder how they would have taken that. And it's funny because it's all just imagination. I'm like, man, I'm glad I never heard it, because like, what if it's disappointing? So,
right. And well, that ties to the whole idea of, we were just talking about where music is a product of its environment and of its time, right? It's like, oh, so, Tim and I both talked about, what is it, Eros, the Lost Deftones album. I would love to hear it, but at the same time, I don't want to hear it, because I know it was a product of that time. And the expectation, to your point, Jordan, it raises it up to some lofty extreme that it's never going to hit. And then you're going to hear it and you're going to, well, this is terrible. I mean, everybody should just look at Guns N' Roses and Chinese Democracy and say, okay, we get it. We get it. We don't need to release it. We get it.
I totally get that for sure. Oh man. Yeah, that is, I love, like, I unabashedly, like, for a while I had like a love-hate relationship with Guns N' Roses, and now I'm like, okay, they're pretty cool, like pretty badass. First couple records are pretty cool, and then I'm like, but I don't think that record should exist ever. So I don't think Chinese Democracy should exist. So
there's actually two, if you go on YouTube, there's two demos from the newest record out that came out a while ago. I forget the titles of them, but I'll send them in the chat when I find them. But they're really good. And I actually think Skeletons wasn't that good of a record. It's good, but Skeletons, they just kind of went off course on that one. I mean, it's still dark as hell and fucked up, but it's just not on the course of this one.
I think it could have been mixed better, like from a person,
Absolutely.
like from an audio standpoint with that. I think it could have been like, it just sounds very raw, which I know that they were probably going for, being the band that they are. They seem very like organic and everything. But like, I listen to songs like Ether, and I'm like, man, if this was like super polished, this song would have been like absolutely massive and probably would have kept them going and everything. But I just feel like that kind of suffered. And then, they just kind of had that decline where they were, and I'm kind of glad that like that was like 2003 was the stopping point for them, because it's like, okay, cool, you did what you had to do, and you gave it your all. It's like when bands break up and everyone's like, what happened? They're like, nothing, we're done. Like, we set out to do what we had to do, and it's done. And so Skeletons was okay. I think it was okay. Like the song, the singles, the hits were great.
Yeah.
And then everything else is just like, okay, like, no, like you're being a little weird for the sake of being weird, but it's okay. It's pretty cool. So
yeah, Jay, go and listen to it. You might you actually probably like that one.
Yeah, I did download it. I just I got hung up on this one. I never got a chance to get past this one. So let me ask you both this: what's your favorite Nothingface album?
This one, Violence. Of all time. Like, it was super hard to pick, but oh my god, it's got to be this one for sure.
It's so hard between this and Atrocity.
Oh, you know what's funny about that? I was just, if you saw my girlfriend come in here, I was going to show you. I don't remember if I talked about this last time, but I spent like a ridiculous amount on a shirt. I'm gonna turn my camera back on, see if my computer doesn't freak out on me. But it's this guy.
Oh, there
the
you go.
atrocity. Yep.
It's the atrocity shirt, and some guy, and it's really funny. I'm pretty sure he was testing people on like if they'd actually pay the price or not, because everything else in his like Etsy store is like $400, because he's like, it's not for sale, but if you want it, you can pay this price. Like, because he has like a long sleeve on there, he has like a Dickies jacket on there, and it's like he has this like insane collection, and he's like, okay, I don't want to give this up, but if you're gonna pay the prices, sure. And so I paid like dollars for this shirt, and
Hey, whatever. I get it.
and so, but
we've all spent money on crazy shit. That
well, the
like,
funny thing is, I'm like, well, my favorite thing is like I have it, you don't, haha. And so, but the funny thing is, it arrived in like one of those flat rate mailer boxes things, and this kid wrote Nothingface lyrics all over it, like every side of the box was just Nothingface lyrics, and it was really
That's
cool.
pretty sweet, actually.
I was like,
yeah,
man,
that's actually cool.
I was like, this kid's a fan. This kid ain't just like some stupid Depop flipper or something. I was like, this kid's like a fan. And so I only have like 4 Nothingface shirts in my collection, because they're so hard to find like for a good price. But I have like this one. I have 2 of. I have like the Nothing, or the Violence album cover, and I have one that's got this big red pentagram on it. And then I have one from the Skeletons album, and on the back it says like it's Butcher Time or something, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
And then some kid has a hoodie, and I'm like, don't show me that you have a hoodie, because I will find you. Like I will come to your house and I will take that from you.
You know, you make me wonder like why some of these bands don't do like a retro merch re-release, right? Where just go back and have somebody get the rights and just do a run of you know, because back then Tim and I were joking, you know, we just did t-shirts for New Breed, and we're like, you know, back then everything was either a large or an extra large. That was everything.
That was the cool thing.
Small, there was no medium.
Yeah,
It was large or extra large.
I told the guys in ZoneZero that too. I'm like, next time we do merch, let's just not do like smalls and mediums. I was like, I have a fucking box of those things just sitting downstairs because nobody wants them.
Mm-mm.
You know? And so I'm like, cool, like XL or large through 2X is sold out immediately, but I'm gonna have these literally forever. Until they
Yeah, Jay got the big boys.
Oh yeah, I went all the way up to 3X. I'm like, I need, you know, let's be honest here. People are bigger sized, and I want a fucking 3X. So fuck it, I'll just buy bigger ones. But
are the best.
But I would wonder, right? Like I was trying to find, you know, for the Limp Bizkit episode Tim and I are going to do, I was trying to find legit Limp Bizkit merch, and I ended up ordering what is a questionable shirt coming from Taiwan. So it's definitely bootlegged, but I don't care because they had it my size or whatever. But it was like, you know, why don't these bands just say, you know what, fuck it, like let's think about Blue Grape, right? Somebody owns, who bought Roadrunner? Columbia?
Roadrunner owned Blue Grape, and I found like a PDF file of like an old like a catalog online, and they're like, yep, large and extra large. That's it,
dude. I had everything that catalog put out. My brother and I used to get all this, like, and then you get like the weird stuff that they wouldn't do in like mail order, or the bands really wouldn't take it on tour. It was truly like a Blue Grape label exclusive. My brother has this V-neck, what is it, a V-neck Sepultura shirt. It's a gray t-shirt with black sleeves, and it has a giant Roots patch sewn onto it in black and white, and then on the back it has Roots stenciled across the back. And I'm like, dude, do you still have that? He's like, yeah, it's in a fucking drawer somewhere. I'm like, you realize you could probably flip that for like hundreds of dollars. He's like,
oh my God, yeah, dude.
He's like, what can I get for my God Lives Underwater shirt? And I'm like, if you still have one of those and you won't give it to me, I'm really gonna be pissed off.
Oh, I would go in a bid war for that for sure. That
I love that fucking album. All right,
tell him to send you the Roots thing for the Roots episode so you can wear it.
Yeah, do you really think I'm gonna fit in it, Tim? Really?
Well, what size
like, I'll
is
get
it?
it.
I'll wear it.
It's an extra large. Everything back then was extra large, but I'll be lucky to get over my head. So back to Nothingface.
I got a bunch more stuff here because
go on.
I wanted to make up for my lack of input on the songs with some other stuff.
Yeah, I had a few notes here that I wrote down. I didn't want to do. I was like, man, just in case I don't do song by song, I want to have some notes ready. And then you're like, well, we're not going to go song by song. And I was like, thank God, because I had other just little things here and there written down. So
we're still going to go song by song though.
I'm still into that. Yeah, I'll talk.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. So I want to get these bullet points out of the way. So, like I said, it was released on TVT, produced by Drew. Drew also, remember that band Jawbox?
Yes.
He did them. Remember that band Souls at Zero?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did that. He also did the Atrocity record too. But wasn't TVT one of the labels that, like, when Pretty Hate Machine came out, like they jumped on that whole industrial jump thing? And
absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
So were they putting out the Skinny Puppy stuff?
Wax Tracks, I want to say.
That was
it was Wax Track.
TVT was
KMFDM.
KMFDM, Gravity Kills. That was all
That's
TBT.
it. There you go. Yeah. So they jumped on that industrial shit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go back to that 87,000 copies thing, because they did Tattoo the Earth for this record, which is really surprising that like they didn't sell a lot. And then they also went out with Snot too.
Oh wow, yeah.
Huh.
So that's what I don't get. But and back to Jay's question about is this what their best record is? It's I think to me this is it, but Audio Guide is so fucking good.
That one's incredible. Starting out with Gold Tooth, like ballsy move. Like
Yeah.
Speaking
so
of Tattoo, did you guys see that the guy who actually created that tour is doing a book / documentary?
Oh wow.
Oh,
I forget what the title of it was. I came across on Facebook, but yeah, he's basically putting together the story behind how they built that to quasi compete with Ozfest, and the problems that they had. You know, the Soulfly was a headliner, then they dropped off to be on Ozfest and all that other bullshit. You know, and Slayer was pissed that Slipknot was headlining over them. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the story behind it.
I also think like them putting out a record called Violence, like if you're gonna do that, you better bring it hard. And I think they did, man. Like it's a fucking filthy, just abrasive, like in your face, fuck you record, man.
Talked
Like
about hanging people from meat hooks in his basement. Like,
yeah, like it's just like, okay, here's us, fuck you. If you don't like it, then you know, see you later. And I love it, like that they just did that. Like if you read the lyrics, man, they're just fucking
they're really
psychopathic
dark
shit, dude.
They're really dark. And I mean, thinking this came out in 2000, right? I mean, this is about as abrasive as, you know, mainstream new metal was going to go, right? This is about it. You know, they were about as abrasive as they could get. I mean, think about somebody else who was more abrasive. I don't know. This is Iowa wasn't out yet. At that point, that set the bar.
Like in one of the songs on Skeletons, like he's even like if you're gonna punch me, like please not in the face, like so I can laugh. Like the dude he was just a sick fuck. And I also think this is a very emotional record as well for him. Like I don't like when I read them, I'm like he had to be. I wonder if he was like doing the dope as he was doing this record as well. Like I never really heard of that, but I kind of get like an emotional feel from this.
Yeah, it was actually, I read this a long time ago too. It was actually kind of like this whole record thing was kind of hard for all of them. Like everyone in the band was doing like I think like a couple of them were going through divorces. Like I think their bass player, I can't remember his name at the time, but he was going through like a divorce. And I think Matt hadn't started doing like hard shit yet, but I think he was at least like an alcoholic or something like that. I can't remember.
Definitely drinking. Absolutely.
And so he was for sure drinking. And like, this was the record that like Chris Hauck, their drummer, like he recorded the record and then was like, I'm not touring off of this. I literally physically cannot do this. Like,
yeah, he had.
I read that right up. Blood pressure. His blood pressure was like
blood
through
pressure
the roof.
problems. And so, but yeah, and then they got Tommy Sickles, and they're like, they put Tommy like in the album notes. Like they knew coming out of this record, they were like, yeah, like Chris Hauck played drums, but like here's our new guy, like already. So, you know, for you diehard fans, just in case you see a new guy. And
yep.
It was just because like he went in, like I think it was like even before they recorded, they were doing like rehearsals for it. And he was like, just a heads up, like this was probably going to be the last record I do with you guys because I'm in pain. So like I'm in pain and I have like medical problems. Like I could potentially drop dead from being in this band.
Jesus.
So.
Yeah, Tommy was actually sitting there in the studio when he recorded it, so he'd get the feel for it.
Yeah.
Because Chris said at the end of the one song they did, his blood pressure was like 200 over something.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
So like him playing drums was literally killing him. It's fucking sad, man. 'Cause he's a great drummer, dude.
Oh, incredible.
So VH1 named this record 4 out of 12, number 4 most underrated nu metal record of all time, and I agree with that. I mean, I don't know where VH1 comes into the nu metal scene, but I agree, man. It's a highly underrated record. I think if people listen to it, they'll see like how talented Matt was as a vocalist and a lyricist. I mean, it's just another one gone too soon, man.
Mm-hmm.
So that was 2 days ago, or 2 days ago. It was 4 years since he passed.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
April 15th.
Yeah, the night he passed, I was going to drive to do an episode, and that just killed my night, man. It's like one of them musicians where like they die, and I'm just like, God damn it, man.
Yeah, you're super bummed.
When that happened, I just listened to their discography all day. I think I was in the middle of moving. Actually, I was moving apartments, and just on all my drives during packing and everything, I just blared. You know, I blared everything from Pacifier to Skeletons and everything. That was just, it was crazy. It was kind of
Rough.
spooky. I was just like, man, this band has meant a lot to me for a long time, and it's just like weird hearing his voice going like, man, this guy isn't here anymore. Like, it's literally today, this guy isn't here anymore. It's wild.
So I read this interview, and this dude said that this record lacks originality, and I was like, what are you listening to? This is like, what other band is more original than Nothingface? Nobody really sounded like them. You know what I mean?
No, honestly, nobody really did ever. So
It's a perfect record. How is it not? I mean, the riffing is fucking incredible. The drumming's great. The bass lines are great. Everything about it is perfect to me. It's a record I could listen to a million times and not get sick of.
it's
I
just
just
something
don't
feel
understand the
like-
people that write this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel like they put a lot of like time and attention into this record, like with the like ferocity that it has. They still went in and like, I feel like they like calculated all this out, and like every riff makes sense, and every bass line makes sense, and every drum part makes like total sense. And I feel like they weren't going in there going like, let's write like the heaviest stuff possible. They were like, let's do it tastefully and make sure everything has like dynamic range to it, and just make it, and just make it a fantastic. And the thing is, like, this record isn't like even super polished. It sounds great, but like it doesn't feel like digital at all, and everything feels super organic, but still very neat. And I feel like they were a band that I feel like had their shit together, and they just knew exactly what they were doing. So
Yeah, I would agree, and I'm with you on the mix and the production and stuff. It's really good, but it's not super over the top. And I think if it was super over the top, it would lack that energy it gives off.
I'll tell you one thing, it's fat. Like, it's in my car and everything, listening to it, like it's so beefy.
Yeah. The mix is it's got a lot of
It's got a lot of low end to it.
yeah, it's got a lot of punch to it.
As what we in ZoneZero say, it's got some ass to it.
we
We said that all day, talking about drum tones, bass tones. We were like, oh yeah, it's got some ass to it. And so I always say that when I talk about a mix being real heavy. But yeah, that Violence by Nothingface has ass to it, and you can quote me on that, because it's such a good fat record. So
it's great, man. So I guess we can get into the tracks.
All right. All right, so we'll start off with the opener, Make Your Own Bones. This one, again, when I first put this on after never hearing it, I was kind of just like, eh. And then I didn't realize that he was screaming, but it was lower in the mix. And it's purposefully done that way. I actually picked up a pair of headphones. And I think because I'm listening to it through a set of speakers. I had am I hearing that right? Yeah, I mean, it's a hell of a way to open the album. Within 45 seconds, like, okay, this is a fucking new metal record. Like, okay, yep, we're in new metal land. This is not like,
as soon as they come out of that intro, and they hit that part. I'm like, cool, I get a new metal thing. And that was another thing I had in my notes here, was like, they use like a proper amount of like sampling in this record, like very subtle things here and there. Like when that kicks in, that's like a crowd. When it hits,
that's what I thought it was.
I thought it was him yelling and it was just washed out.
That's a crowd noise.
It's a full crowd. So like when it goes like, and then it stops, they just sampled like this yelling crowd, and then it cuts out. And then another favorite part, like speaking of the whole dynamics thing, having it kick in, is after the second verse going into the second chorus. It stops and you hear the sample that says "listen carefully," and then it hits that chorus. That is like genius. And I think that band, they just did little sampling things here and there so well.
You're right. It's subtle, but it works.
Yeah, like when I hear that, I'm just like, oh my god, like I hadn't heard a band do that well of a sampling job since like American Head Charge on like The War of Art. And they use a lot, but once again, it's very well done. Like, it's not like over the top drowning out stuff. It's a lot of like really necessary stuff. So
this record has the best bridge parts I've heard, and for they just know how to write a bridge. And I think you can't really be a good band if you can't write a bridge.
You need something good there.
Yeah.
So
the bridges on this record, especially in this song, they're just so captivating. When you listen to it, it makes you pay attention. And I think that's why I like this record so much, because every song you're jamming to it, and then you just straight pay attention to it, because it's just, like I said, it captivates you as a listener. And I think it's a special thing when a band can do that, man.
You know what, Tim? I'm looking at my notes, and I wrote that down at first when I got to Blue Skin, right? I have a note here that every song has at least one part that I stop and I pay attention to.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's favorite song on this record, Blue Skin.
That's
And that
exactly what I'm
bridge.
trying to say, Jay.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there's at least something where I would stop and look at my speaker and then go back to what I was doing at least every song, which is kind of impressive if you think about it, right? Because that's how you create earworms.
Yeah. I think this band was like an all-star band without them even knowing it. They just like they found each other, and it's just like all-star musicians just forming a band.
They definitely were one of those bands that were before their time, and with
Oh
the
my
right
God, yeah,
label
dude.
and the right support, they were probably highly unstoppable. Let's hop ahead to arguably one of the more popular, one of if not the most popular song of the album, track number 2. Tim, this passes the track number 2 test, Bleeder.
Yeah. You know
And
what?
this
I'm gonna
the
do this one
promo, right?
first.
There was a promo. Wasn't there a promo? And this is one of the first songs they released
Yeah,
for this
yeah.
album.
This
Yeah,
was on the
so.
digipack that I was talking about that I
Okay.
got at the show. I know I said I didn't want to go first, but I'm gonna do it on this one. This is my favorite track on the record. Just a fucking standout track with everything. It's perfect in every sense. The chorus part is fucking so goddamn catchy. I don't even care. Like, if you can't sing, you're singing this stuff. Like, you don't even care who's looking at this point. It's just that good. It's the track that hooked me for this band. I mean, it's every time I hear it, man, it brings me back to when putting that CD in the car, man. Super fucking talented dudes just writing super talented songs. It's a perfect song.
Incredible.
It just catches you with it's that song where, like I said in the one before that, you stop and you go, dude, I've never how do you put out a song that's this good? And it's kind of like, since Jordan's on, when you listen to some of the ZoneZero stuff, it's like, yo, what the fuck's going on over there?
Oh,
Yep,
guys.
yep.
It's just it's expertly written fucking music, man. And I'm just I just wish that fucking they, like Jay said, that they got their due, man.
Yeah, I really wish that. I really wish that too. I don't know. I always like to keep them as like a hidden gem. Like, even though I know that there's a lot of people who like in new metal groups and stuff who obviously probably know who they are. Like, it's no big secret or anything, but like when there's people who just know surface level stuff, like, oh, like I like Korn and Slipknot, like even like bands like Breaking Benjamin and stuff like that. And then I'm like, oh, cool. Like, you should listen to Nothingface. I'm never a snob about it. I'm never like, oh, you've never heard of that band? That's crazy. Like, really? You've never? And I'm always just like, if you haven't, listen to it. And I'm always like, start. I don't even tell them like start with Violence. I'm like, just start from the beginning. Start from the beginning and go from there. Like, watch the growth of that band, because it's really good. Like, that first record gets compared a lot to Korn.
Yeah.
And then even they were like, okay, cool, let's punch it up a little bit. So then they really started kicking ass on Audio Guide. And then I think with Violence, they just found it. That was their magnum opus. Was just incredible record. So.
Yeah, without even hearing Skeletons, the way you both describe it, it definitely sounds like this is their high watermark, right? This is where they finally hit stride.
Absolutely. I mean, Skeletons, like I said, it's good. It's just it falls off. It really does.
All right,
Jay,
so
I had in my notes. I wanted to ask you about this song. Was this one of the songs where you were like really feeling? Because I kind of feel like this is a song that you just
no. So when
Wow.
I will tell you this, now I enjoy the album in its entirety. I probably couldn't pick out a individual song except for the opener and Can't Wait for Violence. One of my first notes here is the first half of this album didn't stand out to me. The first 2 times I listened to it, it was Can't Wait for Violence, Dead Like Me, Blue Skin, Filthy. Those 4 back to back to back to back was where my ears started to wake up and I went, oh wow, like these guys are onto something. Like the next song, Same Solution, and even right For All the Sin right after that, right? Good songs, but they didn't really jump out at me yet. It was the drumming in Can't Wait for Violence, which started to make me pay attention. And then now I guess maybe at that point I'm paying attention and I picked up on the rest of the album and I went, yeah, okay, now I get it. Now I get why everybody's geeked about this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think, and that's my favorite part about Can't Wait for Violence is like the drumming with that, is because it follows so well with the riff. It just all locks together, and I love hearing that little build up intro into the whole song. Everything just seems to just lock in place, and it's so good. There's so many times where I'm like, everyone's knows that this is my favorite new metal record and everything. And then like other records, I can talk about it in length and everything. And like, well, why do you like this record so much? And I'm just like, and I have like 0 words. And I'm like, it just fucking rocks. And that's like my go-to response. And I'm just like, I can't say enough. Just listen to it, and you will understand. Like that's it. So
Yeah, first 2 songs for me, 1-2 punch right there, man.
So let's go into Tim. What are your thoughts on Same Solution, track number 3?
Dude, 1, 2, 3 right here. This banger for me. This song has probably some of the best lyrics on the record. I love it. I mean, what's he say in the back of my black hearse on a fucking meat hook in my basement? I mean, like, what the fuck was this dude writing about?
Yeah,
crazy shit, dude.
And I believe it, because one of my notes here is I watched an interview he did in like Minnesota in like 1999. They were on tour with Stuck Mojo.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they did.
And that's the thing. That's one thing he talked about a lot too. Is he's like, I like touring with these kind of bands because they get it. Like these bands that just hustle all the time, and they don't have tours. I think this was like even before, it was like during the time of like Slipknot blowing up. So like they didn't really know who that band really was yet. So they talked a lot about like, oh, Korn and Deftones and everything. And it was funny enough because he was like, oh, he's like, I really can't stand bands like Korn, but I think that Deftones is one of the most underrated bands ever. And like, it was like around the time where like new metal was still peaking and like still coming up. And so he was just like, yeah, I don't think we're like those other bands. I think we do something completely different. But the funny thing is, how he writes these fucked up lyrics. One thing I noted that he talked about in this interview was like, he's just a goofy fucking guy. Like he's a very like non-serious person. Like he doesn't act all serious, like dark, mysterious guy. He's sitting there like just chain smoking a pack of cigarettes and just sipping some tea before the show. And just talking to this guy, and he's like, yeah, I think I like Mr. Bungle more than Faith No More, and just chatting it up with him. And he talks about, one of the questions the interviewer asks is like, oh, like, has your mother ever caught you like jerking off before? And it's just a stupid like out of nowhere question, and he's like, no, but he did catch me fucking a girl in the ass before. And it's just so funny because I looked at this guy's lyrics and everything, and then I listened to that clip, and I'm just like, man, what a guy. Like he had completely take himself not seriously whatsoever. And then he just comes in and writes these lyrics where you're just like, what the fuck is this guy trying to say? But he's just a goofy guy. He's just a great, just goofball. And he was a super sweet guy. Like I wish I would have known him personally, as I'm sure a lot of people would have.
So Tim, Stuck Mojo, new metal? Yes or no?
Yes.
Jordan?
They walk a fine line with me, I think. They have a lot more of like a like, I don't know, what's that record? Is it Snappin' Necks? Is that the album?
Snappin' Necks was the EP, and then it was Pig Walk.
Pig Walk is like,
Pig Walk is new metal.
I think Pig Walk is 100% new metal. Like that record just, oh man, that's another real like I didn't really get it at first. Like when he was like, oh yeah, we toured Stuck Mojo, because in my mind I'm thinking like Not Promised Tomorrow type of Stuck Mojo, where it's just like, and we're promised tomorrow, like it's like the rap metal stuff almost. And then I listened to Pig Walk and I'm like, oh, I get it. I get why you guys are on tour with this band.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Pig Walk was great. I bought that. I bought that at like a Borders or something, and I put it on in the car, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Right? And then the next album, they go way more towards what you're talking about, Jordan. Was it Declaration of a Headhunter or whatever? That's when they start showing up on NWO Wrestling, and all that sort of stuff. And that's where Rising, I think. Rising was the third album, but they started showing up on wrestling, and I was like, "Yeah, this is more like." I don't want to say cheese metal, but it was, they lost all semblance of like the new metal, I don't know, adjacency. And they went way more towards like, hey, let's move some units. And it's like, nah.
They went the God Forbid route.
Oh,
they really did. And it's
that third God Forbid album. Ugh.
What?
What are you talking about?
Stop it.
Which one are you talking about?
The one after Determination.
Jay, stop the nonsense over there.
No.
Jay.
Are you talking about like the treason, Declaration of Treason or whatever?
What's the third? No, what's the third album, Tim? What's after Determination?
I forget exactly now, but if you're telling me that Washed Out World is not a good song, we have to talk, because
I also will not tolerate any God Forbid slander on this podcast.
I can't do it either, dude.
Hold on.
That record is
Gone
so
Forever.
good.
No.
Oh my God. What?
No.
What am I thinking of? I'm thinking of
I
it's like it's the one where like the
Yeah, you're
Statue of
thinking of
Liberty's getting her
Constitution
hand
Treason. That's the one after
Constitution
that.
Treason.
Yeah.
That one is God tier. That one just
No.
It's so good.
Nope. Check me out. Waiter, check, please. Nope.
Jay, me and you got. We're
and
gonna
I
have
bet
to
you
talk.
prefer Pass Out of Existence over anything else, huh?
No, because the one after, I love Pass Out of Existence. I thought that was a great new metal album, but the one they did right after that is, oh my God.
That's
Oh,
a
it's
God tier record.
We talked about that one last time. That's a perfect record right there.
What is it? It's not Pass Out. What's it called?
Possibility of Reason.
Possibility of
Possibility
Reason
of
is an amazing album. No,
That-
they were
That's
they
a
were
God
one of the
tier
bands
record.
where they kind of took a 45-degree turn and they got 10,000 times better. God
And that
forbid
one's-
lost me once they introduced the fucking clean vocals.
And that one's
right
funny
in the
because
harmonies.
I feel like Impossible Reason tailors to both like the metalcore kids and the new metal kids because it's like these crazy like fast heavy riffs and everything, but you got Ben from Switched like producing it, and so he was like throwing in the radio rock like vocal patterns and stuff. Like there's one song that didn't make the record, I think it's called Stays the Same.
So good.
It's got the most like, I love that song. I think that song should have been on the record, but it's got the most like generic radio metal chorus ever. And it's so good. It's still so good. But I remember watching like their documentary and like I think it was like Rob Arnold was like, no, get that fucking song off the record. I don't want that on there at all. And they were trying to be like this brutal, crazy band. And Ben Sugar was just like, I think you guys should still have some kind of melodic stuff. I think that's what bands are doing now. And they're just like, no, we don't want that. We want to be like Torn with Slayer and Lamb of God and all that stuff. And he's like, all right, fuck it, whatever. I'm just the producer. What do I know? So
I think Stays the Same, if it would have been on the record, would have been my favorite song on that record.
oh, absolutely. I'm like, man, why didn't this get put on there? And but there's also not one song on there I'm like, I would have replaced it with Stays the Same. Like, I think what's already there is just a masterpiece.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Back to Nothingface.
That song of that album was
totally off track.
Overlooked. So let's go to track number 4.
Hold on 1 second. I do want to say about Same Solution. That groovy part after he says "You'll die, you fucking bitch."
Oh my God, that
So
breakdown
fucking
is
good.
incredible. I was just gonna say that little bendy riff with the it's just, oh my God, that part is so, I get so hyped up in the car when I'm hearing
Dude,
that.
so good. And real quick, back to Chimera. There's a song that ZoneZero should cover right there because you would kill them. You would kill them vocals, dude.
Man, I use that. There's a couple different songs I use like in the car to warm up. Like I have a little playlist, and it's funny because I'm actually doing vocals for these 2 new songs tomorrow. And so one of them is Jet City Woman by Queensryche.
Okay.
One of them is Stays the Same by Chimera. I have Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel on there.
That's a great song too.
I'm unabashedly like a huge like Peter Gabriel and Genesis fan and all that stuff. And I think I have like Easy Lover by Phil Collins on there. And those are like my like looped, just singing those over and over again. Just because
that'll loosen your vocal cords, right? There's some range there, right? There's some
especially
definite
I'm trying to be Jeff Tate. I just sit on my nuts and I'm good. Like our old drummer Kevin, like we talk about Queensryche like almost every day, and every time he's like, oh, I did this new cover and I want you to sing on it. He's like, it's a Queensryche song. And then he's like, just kidding, I know you fucking got this, I know you can do it. And I'm like, man, you're hyping me up an awful lot. Like I don't know if I'll be able to hit Jeff Tate levels, but I'll give it a shot. So
when I was in college, I dragged one of my roommates to see Machine Head and Snot at the Trocadero.
Sick.
And he, this is not his type of music at all. He showed up wearing a tie-dye Queensryche Operation Mindcrime t-shirt.
Sick.
And everybody looked at this guy. Everybody looked at poor Bocher like he was like the man who fell to earth. Like he was like on a different planet. It was kind of funny. He's like, dude, why is everybody looking at me like that? I'm like, because you're the one person in this fucking venue that doesn't have a black t-shirt on. It's tie-dye and it's Queensryche and it's Operation Mindcrime. He's like, yeah, I guess I kind of do stand out, huh?
Throw on your 17-inch Dickies and get in there, man.
All right. For All the Sin, track number 4.
4 bangers in a row.
Yeah, that record, that song is, I wouldn't say like it like resonates with me like lyrically or anything. I think it's a badass song. Obviously why it's my social media handles everywhere, but that's just, if I had to pick like one song, like I'd say if I had to pick a couple from this record that really do that, it's like Dead Like Me, Blue Skin, and For All the Sin. I think those are like the top 3 like badass tracks on this record. So I think
how good is the pre-chorus, man?
Is this the song with the acoustics and
Yeah,
his voice
yeah,
kind of
stay
echoes?
far away.
Yeah.
Dude,
And that's what I
fucking
thought
good.
hooked me into that song, was like using that acoustic before the chorus hit was just like smart move, and it just kind of built it up. Like it comes out of the verse into that acoustic, like pre-chorus, and then into the, it just was so good. And that was one of the things I thought. I was like, man, no, this band takes their time and really kind of calculates out these parts and what's going to really hit. And that's just such a perfect thing. Like I think, like you said before, with them being like these 4 dudes get together and they're just like this this mastermind of a band. And this is I think this song's a really good example. This is a very mature, like if you're going to call any like a song like a mature nu metal song, I think it'd be this one or one of these off this record. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of my highlights of the record for me. The whole song is just great.
And I actually think even though it's not one of my favorites, it's a good setup for the next song, track number 5, Can't Wait for Violence. Again, this is the one where my ears perked up, right? Because it's that single note picking intro into the, and I caught myself tapping my feet, and that's how I'm like, okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Like I really this is where I started to really pay attention to it.
This is another song when they go into the chorus, expertly written fucking music. It's fucking perfection, dude.
It's so simple. Like the chorus is so simple and like doesn't have to be layered with a bunch of stuff at all. And every time it comes on, I catch myself singing it over and over again.
Yep.
Didn't these guys end up in like Hell Yeah or something?
One of them, well, it was funny,
the guitar player.
Okay.
Tom Maxwell did, and then I think around the time Hell Yeah was being put together, like late 2005 or 2006, like before they were like making the record, I forget his last name. I want to call him Jerry Montana. I know it's not his last name, but Jerry whatever, from who used to be in the Deadlights, and then was in Nothingface. I think when Nothingface was basically like, yeah, I guess we're taking a break. Like we're not making this other record. I guess we're gonna take a break. He joined Hell Yeah with Tom Maxwell, and he was quickly exited out because I think at the release party for the Hell Yeah record, they said something about like he was like thrown out of the band and kicked out of the release show because of like domestic violence charges or some shit. Like some stuff happened with him, and I'm just like, someone from Hell Yeah,
the drugs and the partying. That's
someone
what
from Hell Yeah, you don't say. No, say it ain't so.
I think the first Hell Yeah record's great.
Oh, I think that's like the best, like their best record. Like I appreciate that band for what they are. I understand what they're doing and everything. Like I understand that what they were doing with who they had. Like they had fucking Vinnie Paul playing drums and like
right. You knew it was going to be Southern tinged. I went
Tom,
back to that when we did that one post nu metal episode, and it's a fun listen. That first album is a fun listen.
And like I kind of knew it was happening with Tom Maxwell because like I don't think I've ever seen that man not wear a fucking cowboy hat ever. Yeah. So like in anything, like even Nothingface, like Matt's up there, like their bass player's got like a Stuck Mojo jersey on, and like his hair is cut into like devil horns, and like drummer's back there bald, shirtless, like cut dude, and like Matt's up there looking straight up like stereotypical nu metal, spiked up black hair, like
strung out
piercings, and like he's got like the Dickies on and like the button up like Dickie shirt and everything. And then you look at fucking Tom Maxwell, and he's got like a black wife beater and a cowboy hat on, playing like a cut like cutaway guitar in like fucking drop tuning. And then I'm just like, so when people are like, oh man, it's crazy he's in Hell Yeah, and I'm like, that's not really surprising to me, but
not at all.
But I think it's cool for what it is. I just that first record, you're right, like it's funny, I think you guys if you guys have talked about that band God's Hate before, but I think it's funny that they're like, oh, we're God's Hate, and this is our song God's Hate from the record God's Hate. I think that's funny with Hell Yeah, because that opening song on the first Hell Yeah record is funny, and I'm like, because it's so aggressive, and I'm like, yeah, I'm listening to the song Hell Yeah by the band Hell Yeah off of the record Hell Yeah. It's so good.
We were just talking about that last weekend about how it's completely baller to name check yourself on your album.
Oh yeah,
let alone your first album, let alone the first track on the first album. And the example we were using, Jordan, was Snot.
Oh, dude, that's so good. The way he's like Snot, and then he goes into it. I'm like, man, what a good thing, dude. The opening to that record is also hilarious.
Yeah.
Say something for the record. Let the people know how you feel. Fuck the record. Fuck the people. That's oh man, that's me and a buddy of mine bonded over that record a long time ago, and I think that's one of the. I look at the three different tiers of new metal where it was like 94 to 97, 98-ish, where it was like these type of bands like Human Waste, or Human Waste Project and stuff like that, and like Incubus's early stuff and Snot and stuff. And then you get like the next tier where it's, the bands like Linkin Park and Edema and all those different types of bands. And then there's like the 2003 and on, where they were like, they just missed the bus, they just missed the new metal bus, and they're just like, oh man. And then they put out the record anyway, like somebody like Grade 8 or Endo or somebody like that. So
Yep.
We should have just called this episode. We should have just called this episode something else with Nothingface, because it's great. I love
this
it.
is like the LaCroix of Nothingface episodes, where there's a hint, but it's
Nothingface and assorted ramblings. Tangential Nothingface ramblings.
I love it.
So that takes us to Dead Like Me, which is track number, what is this, 5, 6?
6.
This was the song I had to go back and listen to the album because I got it stuck in my head and I couldn't remember which song it was. I think is it the chorus? No, it's that guitar riff. That I got that legit stuck in my head and I couldn't remember which song it was.
That chorus always gets me. I'm always singing that. Like, I think a couple days ago, even at work, I'm on the line at work packing stuff up, and I just look down and I'm just like, I realize time slipping. But I'm like, oh man, I gotta listen to this on the way home. And so that's kind of a weird song for me. I don't know what it is about that song. It's like not heavy, but it is heavy, and it's that. Then once again, you said going back to like writing good, crazy bridges is another thing with that song, because it's like you hear the acoustic guitar, it's very Alice in Chainsy. Like, it sounds very like Jar of Flies, Alice in Chains, with like that bridge, but then you still have the parts where it's like right behind it, and it's dynamics with that bridge. So it's real soft, and then it hits you, and then it backs off, and it's just a weird song to describe. Like, that's like the odd man out for me on this record. So.
Dude, I can't describe these songs. I just can't do it. Like, I listened to it 48 times and I'm like, I can't describe these songs. And I'm just like, I'm fucking done with it. We're just gonna freestyle it because we just have to. But you're right though, because the Like Me Now, Like You Now part, like you just can't help but sing it.
Oh, yeah. You know what I noticed as I'm sitting here looking at the details for these songs? They're all fairly long.
Oh, this record's like 50 minutes total. And
it's the first song is 3:30, then it's 3:30, then we've got 4:22, 4:23, 4:29, 4:12, 4:18, 4:49, 4:08, 3:17, 5:05, and then 3:27. So these are long songs.
And some of these don't seem like it. There's a lot of these like long ass songs on these records, but like you listen to it and it's there and it's over. Like, especially Dead Like Me being 4 minutes and 13 seconds. I'm like, man, this is kind of a short song. And then I look at it and I'm like, oh no, it's not at all.
And you know what else I noticed? I just listened to that interview that Ryan Rainbow did with Mike Kennedy from VOD. And at one point, Mike Kennedy makes a remark when they're talking about the self-titled album. He says, when I went back and listened to Element, I realized that, we don't repeat any part of that song until the end.
I listened to that today.
It's a great interview. It's a great interview.
Yep.
And they were sponsored by Jenko. How funny is that? And that's one of the things I noticed about these songs is not a lot of the parts repeat. I mean, there are some songs which are written like a standard verse, chorus, bridge, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, chorus, right? But there's a lot of songs where they don't repeat the part frequently. Like, they come back to it almost like a motif. And I noticed that later in the second half, right? I think it was Hidden Hand stood out to me, and then Everlasting Godstopper, which is an amazing fucking song title.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
It just seems like, but it doesn't feel like riff salad, but it just seems like the songs are written in a way where they don't have to go back and keep treading the same water, and yet it still resonates.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Dead Like Me has that acoustic parts in it too, which are great.
So good.
Yeah, if you listen on headphones, that swirling panning effect that they do in this song is fucking amazing. I love that.
Oh yeah.
Like, if you listen to it right before the bridge part comes on, it like does this swirling panning part.
It goes from left to right. Yeah, it goes from like left to right or right to left, but it just goes like that. It just goes over your head.
It feels like it goes through your ears, man.
Yeah, like so many times I've been listening to this and like subconsciously at my computer, listening to it on headphones or something, and I find myself like turning my head with the guitars.
Yeah. Makes you wonder why bands don't do that more. right? Because that's the kind of, I mean, that's studio trickery in a fun way. It's not like Rings of Saturn where they play at half speed and then they speed it up to make themselves sound more technical than they actually are, right? Like that's the kind of cool studio shit you could do, phasing in from ear to ear. Like I remember the intro to Persistence of Time with the ticking clock that speeds up. It goes from ear to ear. And I was a kid, I used to remember having my ears bounce back and forth to see how fast I can get my eyes to bounce before I'd give myself a fucking headache.
There's
I don't think a lot of producers know how to automate correctly. I think that's what it is, honestly.
There's a demo I have of it's like, I don't know if I still have it, but there was an old demo of a ZoneZero song where I made the intro vocals do that. And it was like a very like solely from Godsmack thing where like in the beginning of, I think it's Greed, where he does that like ruff and just does like that bark into that song. It just goes like from left to right, and it's just me going like real quick, and it hits the intro of the song. But it's bands like Nothingface that did parts like that were like, I think were super cool. Like,
whatever happened to those guys?
Trick. Who, Godsmack?
Godsmack, are they still around?
Oh, they're yeah. I mean, as much as they can be. Like this, and it's not like they're doing the thing that kind of Papa Roach did, where they evolved over time. Like they kind of went with what was going on at the time. Like,
okay,
Papa Roach got into the 2004, 2006 area, and they're sporting eyeliner and writing songs about, you know, slitting your wrists open and stuff. And you're like, oh, I see what you're trying to do. But I appreciate that. Like, I love when bands can do that, but like, and do it successfully. Like, people are like, oh, Papa Roach, that's crazy. I just saw them last year. I'm like, yes, you did just see them last year because they're still a fucking band. So
it's kind of amazing, actually, when you think about it. All right, let's move us ahead to Blue Skin, track number 7.
Favorite song on the record. Best.
Wow.
Is this the heaviest song on the record?
Oh, that ending for sure has to be. Like that whole like stop and go at the end has to be like their heaviest moment on this record.
This has the panning trick in it too.
Mm-hmm.
I think this has some of the worst lyrics on the record, though.
It's funny enough that you were saying that because I was thinking today about the lyric from this song I wanted to get tattooed on me, and so I think it's hilarious. Okay, and I wanted to get the "Into the Sun, Return is Nothing," and like have that be my Nothingface like relic, like as of a lyric that I could get tattooed on me. And so I agree, though. I do think like it's not bad. It's just not as good as the rest of them.
Yeah. Like they're not bad. It's just to me, it's the lowest point of lyrics for me in the lyric. The bass lines in this song are great though.
Oh, incredible.
And then what is that? What is that thing in the bridge part? It's like that weird sound. I can't tell if it's a guitar or not. I know right now as we're doing this, it's probably like you can't remember exactly what it is. But in the bridge part of this, there's a super weird sound that I can never figure out what's doing it.
I don't know. But that was another cool thing I liked about Tom Maxwell is his use of effects, because it wasn't overly heavy, but he would use stuff like I swear there's some riffs I hear that he used like an octave pedal or something where like he was playing. It wasn't exactly chords, but it just sounded like these crazy octave parts. And I'm like, I know you're not shredding and doing this, like because I can hear it's a real fast riffing and stuff, but it sounds very like doubled high and low. And I'm like, you've got to have something going on. So I feel like he used very subtle effects here and there that were really cool, and he didn't overdo it.
I guess it's the chorus riff. All I can picture in my head, and this is probably terrible, is that Hate 5-6 Harm's Way meme of James
where he's running,
kind of doing the running man.
Yeah.
As soon as I heard that riff, that's all I could picture in my head because it fits perfectly.
Yeah, and I was gonna say something about the panning thing. I was something came up the other day when I was driving home from work. I was listening to probably another, and if you guys ever do a deep dive on this, and do not call me, I will be severely pissed off because it is Down the Sun's only record, their self-titled record.
Ooh.
And
you know what? That was one of the ones, Jordan, I'll be honest with you, I had never heard that until we did our post new metal deep dive, and I actually think it's fucking awesome.
It's incredible.
Like, I think it's fucking awesome.
Really, and the only thing that happened, like, they didn't get snubbed. Nobody did anything. Like, almost everyone in that band was just like, whatever, and then left. And so, like, their bass player and keyboard player were just like, let's try to keep this going, I guess. And then they were like, well, fuck it, we can't do it. Never mind. So they only
that album was really good.
And it's incredible. But there's a part in the first song, Medicated, at the end of the song, he's talking about doing drugs and like how like it's just like this post song, like this little sound clip. And he's like, and now I don't feel like I'm walking with my body. My body's over here, and then I'm over here. And when he goes from here to the other here, he goes from left to right in the speakers. He goes, I'm not here on the right. And then he goes,
Oh, that's
but
awesome.
I'm here. And it goes to
I
the
gotta
left.
listen again now.
And it's super cool. It's very subtle at the end. Like I had to kind of like crank it up a little bit and kind of and just subtly listen to it. He's like, yeah, I'm over here, and then I'm over here. And it goes to the from left to right. And listen to it in the car. I'm like, oh my God, like that's something small, but and then I went online and saw I was watching some kid talk about it, this old video from like 2011 talking about this record, and he's like, yeah, there's this really cool part at the end of Medicated where there's like a lot of volume, panning and stuff going on, and I'm like, somebody else got it. Like obviously people are paying enough attention to this, but yeah, that's another band there's so little known about that band that any little nuggets of new information I find about them, I'm always just like, I have to know more. And
yeah, that was one of the finds. I have it here in my notes. That was one of the finds from we did an episode on post new metal. So when new metal bands cease to exist, what do their members go on and do? And that was one of the finds where I was like, man, this is fucking heavy. Then you realize it was on, Sean Clown, Crahan's label imprint.
It was through Roadrunner.
Yeah.
And like it just I can't find shit about that band. Like there's that record and there's like a handful of like studio pictures I've seen of them, but it's like not of them. It's like the album cover, like the stuff they use, like the picture they use for the album cover, and just like a poster for their tour with, I think it was like Soulfly they opened up for in like 2002. But I can't find anything. And I posted in this one like new metal merch swap group, and I was like, this is such a long shot of all time. Like this is the longest shot of all time. Next to trying to find Apartment 26 merch, which I did, and I am very happy about that. Fun fact, it was rockabilly.com, and it was a clearance shirt for $8 they just had sitting there since 2000. So
no shit, that's pretty wild.
It was really cool, and I love telling my like merch collector friends all my stupid finds because I'm an idiot and just do that all day long. But I was like, if anyone has any of these bands, and it was like Endo, Down the Sun, and Edema, and everyone goes, damn, good luck on Down the Sun. And I'm like, oh cool, so it just doesn't exist. I should just give up now. Got it. So
I'm gonna do this thing and see if you guys can hear what I'm talking about. I'm gonna put my phone up to my mic and see if you can hear this. Hold on. This part.
Is it the bridge? Oh, that real whiny guitar part. It sounds like a lead that's like buried in effects.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to say that, like, I think it would even be cooler. At first I was like, could it be a theremin?
That was my first thought when I
And
first
then I
heard it
was-
was a
yeah,
theremin. Yeah.
And I was like, that'd be even sicker if it was like, if I was like, cool, it could be a guitar. That's cool too. Like that lead part fits right there with the rest of that song in that bridge too. But I was like, if Tom Maxwell ever said like, oh yeah, we fucked around and used a theremin, I'd be like, okay, cool. Yeah, that solidifies you as like the
That's fucking
coolest
awesome.
band. So
Right?
That
I thought about
acoustic
doing
part
that.
right after that's great too.
And I thought about doing that eventually. I was like, man, there's I want to do something live other than like sing. What could I do? And I was like, man, I'm just gonna get some like goofy pad full of just drony sound effects and just be like the new metal full of hell guy, and just sit there and just hammer on these effects live and stuff. And
I think Tim might have heard this story. I saw Full of Hell, Jordan, open for Nails at Underground Arts in Philly. And the lineup of the show was, God, it was Nails, God's Hate, Full of Hell, Jesus Peace, Malice at the Palace, and somebody else.
what a
And
killer show.
they never volume checked his effect board.
So it's just
So like he's like screaming, and he goes and he hits the button, and literally it was 15 times louder than everything else. Everybody all like visually went ugh, in the audience and like went back because it like blasted you. And the lead singer like looks into the audience and he does one of these like like he lifted his shoulders like because he didn't even expect it. Dude, it was one of my better concert memories, but literally he almost flayed people's faces off. They all
that's
physically were
so
like, oh,
sick.
when he hit the first effect pedal.
And that's my favorite shit about like noise music. Like we talked about this before, is like the like harsh noise, power electronic stuff is like my favorite comments. Cause like I know it's not for everybody. Obviously it's not for everybody. It's for a very small group of people who just sit there and go, I love TV static. And that's it. But at the same time, I think it's so funny listening to comments or looking at comments on YouTube. Like it's like, oh, Merzbow live and like Prurient live or whatever. And the first comment is like quotations, and it's like, sorry guys, couldn't get it to work. We'll try again next week. That's my favorite comment about noise music ever.
It's
Is
so
like,
true.
couldn't get it to work. And I'm just like, man, that's so funny because I don't think these guys try. Like, they like noise music, but it's literally just them fucking around, unplugging stuff and plugging it back in and just going like, that's crazy. Look at me, I'm spooky. And it's still cool though. I love it. I love it so much. That's my go-to when I'm like, I don't want to listen to music, but I don't want to listen to some douchebag talk on a podcast right now. No offense that I'm on. Right now.
Take it. I just put on Sun and I scare the shit out of my cats.
Oh, I put
everything starts vibrating and they're all like.
I remember I put on one time. It was like I didn't really want to listen to anything like super crazy, and I didn't want to listen to anything like super happy either. So I put on this record by 40 Watt Sun, and which is like super weird, like doomy, gloomy stuff. And I was just like trying to clean my room or something, and I had to stop. I'm like, man, I'm too depressed to clean now. Like, this is sad. And I do that all the time too. I'm putting on some record I think it's cool to clean too. Like, I think we were cleaning the house. I picked a bunch of albums out, and I picked Spiderland by Slint, and I put it in my CD player. And halfway through, I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go upstairs and take a nap. I'm so sad right now. And I was just depressed. And I'm like, why did I do this? Since I put on Blind Melon immediately, and I was like, there we go. Now I'm back.
Yep. Does it to you every time.
You can put on some REM and make yourself happy.
Yeah.
Oh, I do that all the time actually too. I listen to that in the car, and it's actually funny enough at work now. This new job I'm at, they play like music over the radio. And yesterday, coincidentally enough, I heard like 4 different REM songs throughout the day, and I couldn't look at my phone at work, so I had to like share the article about it when I could. I told our manager, I was like, hey, can you handle socials today? Because like I got to put my phone in my locker. I can't see it until like 1 when I go to lunch. And he was like, yeah, cool, I got you. And so, but throughout the day, I heard like, the one I love, and like I heard like It's the End of the World, and I heard a couple more. Couple more like deep cut REM songs on the radio too, and I was like, man, what a good day for them to be playing REM. Like, it's a solid day. And oh man, it was so funny. That's another funny comment. People were like, that Loudwire was like, oh, they made it a modern rock hit, and some guy goes, well, the song was already a modern rock hit. I'm like, well, it's 30 fucking years old, so I don't think so, bud. I think it's a 30-year-old rock hit.
A 30-year-old rock hit, truth be told. Yeah.
We got to talk about that after this.
Well, when I need to be in a good mood, honestly, the first album I reach for, and I'm doing it probably for 30 fucking years now, Andrew WK, I Get Wet. There is no way you can't put that on and start smiling. And that, and funnily enough, anything 311. I'm sorry, 311 just puts you in a good mood.
Dude, I was in a band with this one kid, I would say kid. He's actually, if I don't know if you guys might follow him on Instagram or whatever, but his thing is New Enamel, and he does new metal pins, and he's been doing Slipknot this entire time, and he just did like a Cold Chamber one. He did the Cold Chamber face, and I told him, I was like, I also have fucking Cold Chamber guy on my arm next to my Linkin Park tattoo. I was like, I need one of those pins. But he's like the biggest 311 fan I know, and he's like, we played in like a fucking, me and Knox played in a band with him, and he was like it was like some real aggressive like One Life Crew without the racism type stuff. And it was just,
what a descriptor.
It really was. I'm like, man, I was like, I'm from the neighborhood, guy. I'm not gonna exactly say it, but it was just a real like heavy band and everything. And then we're after practice, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna head home, guys. And then he turns his car on, and he's listening to 311 in the car and stuff like that. And it was just so funny. I'm just like, man, like the guy who's writing these fucking insanely heavy riffs, these slow like crowbar on crack riffs, and he's listening to 311, and it's just like, it's just purpose, baby. And it's just like, dude, but you're right, like 311's a good like cheer up band. I put that on all the time, and it's just, I'm like, how can somebody not like this band? They're so fun.
I don't know, man. There's something wrong with people. All right, let's finish up the Nothingface.
I was gonna say, let's finish this up and then we'll bullshit.
Where we at? We're at track. Are we at Filthy? Track number 8.
Yeah.
This is the one that starts with that weird echo effect, right? The wow, 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 wow.
Yes.
Wow, wow. Yeah.
That intro is badass. And it's so funny because it sounds like it's going to lead up to something really heavy.
Yes,
and then it just like, leads into the do it just be part.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, that was kind of bold. Like, that was kind of bold of you to do that whole big intro, and then all of a sudden it just goes into the and it's so.
This is probably one of the darkest songs on the record.
Oh yeah, and I wasn't mad about that part either. I was like, well, you pulled that off well. Like, wow.
Yeah, this is also one of my favorite songs on the record. Another amazing chorus part in this one.
Fantastic.
And plus, like that muted guitar part that in the verses, man, that they're some of the standout riffs for me on this record, man.
Yeah, like it's a lot of less is more with Tom Maxwell. I think is a lot of it is very much a lot of less is more. He doesn't really need to do a whole lot of shredding. Like it's if it's appropriate for the song, it's gonna do it. And I find that out a lot too when I write. Like I take that a lot now. Like Nothingface is, maybe not. We don't maybe sound exactly like Nothingface at all. But there's bands like I think the two biggest ones I take of writing like simplistic guitar parts that are effective is like Nothingface, especially this record, and like bands like Breaking Benjamin. You listen to some of the riffs and you're like, you try to play them, you're like, wow, these really aren't that hard at all. And I'm like, but they are effective and they get the asses moving when you hear them live.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so sometimes I'm like, man, this there was another demo we're gonna start working on soon that's the riff is like super easy, and I overthought it for a long time. Like I had a drum part in my head, and then there was a guitar part over it, and I'm like, man, this guitar part sounds way too busy. And I just played what I thought sounded best. Like I just absentmindedly was jamming along to it. I'm like, this is even cooler. I'm like, wow, this is only a couple notes. It's like single notes, a couple here and there. And I'm like, that's actually way cooler than I thought it was going to be. So I think
some of them are the best, though.
Yeah, that's what I like about this song, especially is just little, he can just pluck away at these little his strings, and it's effective in the song. So going back to dynamics and everything.
Yeah. Jay, is this one of your favorite songs on the record?
Filthy?
Yeah.
It was, for me, it was that four. You said it started off 1, 2, 3, 4 for you. For me, it was the middle four. Which now that I think about it, it's the middle third of the album because it can divide into 3 pieces. Can't Wait for Violence, Dead Like Me, Blue Skin, and Filthy. Bang, 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 bang. To me, that was like, all right, I'm in. Now I got to go back and listen to the first 4 songs to pay attention. Now I want to check out what the next 4 songs have.
Yeah. And I think all 8 of these tracks are all bangers. I mean, it's just banger after banger for me.
And that's another thing I find interesting a lot with, especially even listening to you guys do deep dives. Like I listened to the Slipknot self-titled one because that is my favorite Slipknot record. That's like actually my favorite record. And like hearing Jay say like, oh, the back half doesn't really hold up. Like I'm always like, man, I really like those songs, but then I have to realize I'm like, he's right. Like they're not as strong as the first half of the record. And what's really funny about this record is like, I think Jay's right again, where it's like, the middle section of this record is really what keeps you, and that's kind of rare. Like it's usually like, okay, the first half is some sleepers, the back half though, it's really cool. And then, or it's like, oh man, these first couple songs, and then it just kind of, they just kind of either repeat themselves or it goes away. But like with these first, it's like, okay, these first songs are pretty cool, let's see where this goes. And then that middle part just like, ooh, it just smokes you. And then
yeah.
Have either of you guys had an album that you checked out that you enjoyed, that you enjoyed the first half so much you never really took the time to get into the second half, but then eventually you got into the second half and you realized, holy shit, I like this just as much, if not better than the first half? Have either of you had that?
Hybrid Theory.
Okay. How about you, Jordan?
For the first, like, I think it was like the first time after checking out more of their music, it was, and this has also since become one of my favorite bands, but Animosity by Seven Dust.
Oh, okay.
That's a good one. Like the first half of that record obviously is like, it's got the hits. Like the second song is Praise. Like that's the big single off that record. And but like going into it, like these later songs, some of them just like, man, they saved some of the heavy shit for like near the very end. And there's a lot of these like really crazy riffs, and that's another like riff, god that I look up to a lot is like Clint Lowry.
Yeah,
he's
great guitar.
Good. It's not fair. Like it's one of those like he's overqualified to be in a band like that, but he uses it so well.
Yes,
and it's just he's such a fucking good player.
He's like the dude who like did gent riffs without even knowing he did gent.
Oh riffs. Yeah, that was like the first. It was like if you put any other drum beat over his riffs and it's super genty, but you got Morgan Rose back there just like it's just he's playing right along with these riffs, but he's throwing the snare on 2 and 4 and not on 3, and it's like anything else would sound like Meshuggah, but then he's back there playing like these crazy new metal drum parts, and it makes these songs so heavy without trying to be. Like Lejean Witherspoon doesn't have to sit there and scream for these songs to like be really heavy. He just has the proper voice for these riffs, and that's what I also think goes along with Nothingface too. There's so many songs where like the riff is so like it's like stank face heavy. And then you just hear, but then you hear Matt Holt like singing all pretty over it, And you're like, man, how does he, how can you do that? Like if I heard that song, they were like, what are lyrics to that? It'd probably be a bunch just screaming until the chorus, but he just somehow makes these crazy vocal melodies over it.
That's why he was one of the greats.
Oh yeah, fantastic and completely, I think, overlooked. I don't see him brought up a lot in like vocalist conversations when people are like, I think it was a thing on Twitter and people are posting like their 4 favorite musicians like that they of the instrument they played, and I had 2 because it was like drummer and singer, and I had like Corey Taylor. Surprisingly, I had like Shannon Hoon from Blind Melon. I had Mike Patton, and then I had Matt Holt. And people are like, I don't know who that last guy is, and I'm like, oh, you should like just check out this. Linked him Spotify, and I was like, here's the record. So I'm like, not even gonna say like, oh, you don't know who this guy is. I'm like, well, you don't know, obviously, so now you will.
Probably too technical for them.
I really like that guy from the Berserker with the mask that just makes the noises. They were the OG, man. I remember the first time I heard that shit on E-Rake, and I was like, "What is this?" Like,
yeah, there's a couple bands like that. I just
the ridiculous program snare drum that's where you can tell there's no human on the other side of that whatsoever.
Man, another band I would have loved to see do shit with Nothingface. Like I think if these bands had done like a tour back in their prime, they would have been insane. But I don't even know if this ever happened because there's so many things I'm finding out. Like, oh, these bands did a tour together back in the day. I had no idea because I'm a fucking child and I don't know when these tours happened. But if this did happen, I'll be really impressed. But I would have loved to have seen a tour that was like Nothingface, like in this era, and like Skin Lab, Revolting Room era, like. Those 2 bands I feel like could have done like insane because it's the borderline like is this just a metal band or is this a new metal band? Like I can't tell.
Me and Jay had that convo about Skin Lab last week.
Yep.
Yeah, I have and that's funny enough. I have a Revolting Room shirt I got on eBay, and just I was one of those where I'm like, this I should be paying a lot more for this. Like I paid like $30 for it because some guy was like, I've never worn this, it's been in my closet, and I'm like, man, I should be paying a lot more for this because this band's incredible. And then I realized, like, I'm like, man, this record didn't do very well, and they didn't really do a whole lot. Like, they're still a band, obviously. They actually played in Columbus a couple years ago, but like, that's another band. I was just like, man, this if no one knows who they are now, like, they should really get hit because it was like the first 2 records of that band were like death metal, new metal, and it was really weird. And I'm like, what other bands doing this? And
no, we were just talking about this. They really were unique.
Yeah, there's so many bands like that. I'm like, man, there's a million bands doing stuff like that now, you could say, but back in the day, like there was one they were playing like, oh, we could play this show with this new metal band, or like, oh shit, we could fucking open up for Nile or something. Like they were one of those bands. So.
Yeah.
And Nothingface was that diverse too. So
yeah.
Open up for fucking Morbid Angel. So
at this point, who hasn't? All right, so let's go back to Nothingface. Let's see if we can bang these next couple songs out. Track number 9, Hidden Hands.
9 in a row, great songs.
Yeah,
another standout track for me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That opening riff is one of the most intoxicating riffs on the record. I fucking love it. I think in this song though, like I think Matt should have reversed the roles with the singing parts in this. Like he sings the verse, or I thought he should have sang the verse.
Yeah, he sings the verse and screams the chorus, right?
No. He
sings the chorus and screams the verse.
Yeah. I kind of feel like he should have reversed it on here, and I would have liked it a lot more. But either way, it's a great track. And then what's that like old school like TV sound you get throughout the track? It's like something you would hear in like an old school show, like if there's like ghosts in the room or something. You know what I mean? Like if you go back and listen to the song, you'll see what I mean. There's like this eerie, ghosty sounding like sample, and it's really good. I'm gonna mute myself and put it.
Oh,
on.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's at the that's more of a theremin, the 209, 210 mark. Yeah, the woo. Yeah, that's a theremin. Yeah. Almost like the Star Trek intro music. Yep, that's definitely that sound.
Oh, okay.
Now, I don't think he was playing a theremin, but that definitely is that same type of effect. Yeah.
Yeah, and that part right there, I think like melodically, how that song structured, like around that specific part, the vocals and everything is so good. Like the way that Matt structures harmonies and everything is incredible too. Like he's layering over himself, in the studio, and he just nails like every type of harmony. And especially another really good point about that is going back to like Dead Like Me, that whole chorus, like he just slips these real subtle harmonies in his vocals in this chorus parts, and it just works so well. And he was like the king of that shit. It was so good. He just knew how to do it.
Taking us to track number 10, American Love. Tim,
Oh, hold on.
thoughts?
I had myself on mute for a second. This is my least favorite song on the record. I mean, the guitar parts in the chorus are top notch for me, but the verse just bores me to death. But then that clean bridge part just brings you right back in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the only song on this record that I can go. I won't skip it, but it's the only song that I'm kind of like, yeah, I can do without it, kind of thing, though.
Yeah, that's kind of the same for me too. Like I think it just, and that's also, and I'm also kind of glad like that's like the other short song on the record. Is because it's not a bad song. Like I will never say like I could never rank these like best to worst, but like it's just not my favorite. And it's still pretty cool. It's just when I know that Everlasting Godstopper's coming up next, I'm like, get through it.
Yeah, I put my note here was filler ? Because this seems like one of those songs that they whipped up and put together, especially because it's the shortest song on the album. Maybe this was like, hey, we need another track. What do we got laying around? Okay, well, let's stitch this together and make a song out of it.
I do kind of like the chorus. I wish that they had like made this song way cooler, like way more big. I think the chorus could have stayed. I think it's very simple, but I like the all around melody in it, like the guitar, like the way the guitars go, from one note to up and then back down, like with his vocals and everything. It's just, I don't know how to quite describe it, but like
it's like a swirling kind of thing.
Yeah, that if that chorus had stayed in there, it was like really, really big. And then they could have done everything else better. Like if they had made the song around that chorus, I think it could have been way cooler.
And I think Jay's right, because a lot of the riffing and the verse parts in this song are kind of like recycled to me.
It was like it was like if they needed something. They're like, do you want to do the Nothingface thing? Let's do that.
Yeah. It's just like, all right, we have this riff we use, so here we go. But yeah, like I said, it's one of my least favorite track.
Which takes us to the best song title on the album, undeniably, track number 11, Everlasting Godstopper.
Incredible.
I think this song is amazing. I mean, it's a long song, but it doesn't feel long, and it's super, super heavy.
And the highlight of this song for me is the ending, where it hits that real subtle, or that real slow, where Matt's just like somberly singing over the guitar part at the end, where it comes out of the big heavy parts, then it just hits that
with the weird sort of echo on the guitar.
It sounds very like, I don't know how to describe the way that feels to me, but it feels very like carnival-y. Like that guitar part feels like it's a carnival song, like do like that melody seems like, and it just seems very melancholy. Like I know it is, like you look at those lyrics and it's like, I know I'll be alone again. Like he's just singing that over and over, and then he's screaming over top of it and everything. That's just that ending is like perfect. I really, and another thing I really think should have been better with this record if they had flipped the last two tracks.
Yes,
if they had flipped Piss and Vinegar and Everlasting Gobstopper.
Yeah, this would have been a great way to close the album.
That would have been a fantastic way, because it not only is it the longest song, but like, but I can also see it both ways, because like Piss and Vinegar is also another one of the shorter songs, and normally bands do the big somber ending or like the big weird song at the end and everything, like Iowa or whatever, they do the big crazy ending with a hidden track or whatever. But like Piss and Vinegar is just like over and done. You're like, oh, that's the end of the record, I guess. And then you listen to it over again. But so I think they did what you wouldn't expect them to do. So
I think this song has the best drumming in the record. This is the song where he probably had his blood pressure up to 280. The drumming in this song is great, man. This song also has one of the best bridge parts in the whole record. I mean, it's just like I keep saying that word, expertly written stuff, man. It's and you would think this far into the record you wouldn't get a song this good.
I think they could have probably saved this one. I feel like they might have saved it near the end. They were like, okay, cool, we have a heater. Let's not stick it up there somewhere where like it'll get overlooked.
Yeah, we got a heater. That's funny.
Which makes you wonder, Jordan, right? Because that is an awesome way to end the album, and instead they go with Piss and Vinegar.
Yeah. So I think I don't know how their thought process went for that. but I just think they were like, oh, cool, we did this big, melodic ending, and they're like, oh, we got one more, piss vinegar, and they hit you, and then they're like, oh, we're not done yet. So I think they didn't want to do the whole like generic somber ending. They're just like, let's get this one in there and this badass song. People are gonna think that's it. That's the closer because it's been so long, and this song is it's fading out real melodically and everything, and then it's like, oh nope, just kidding, and then back into it again, and then that's it. So
Yeah.
I don't think you could put the somber song on this record though. I think it's too chaotic and it's too in your face to have that somber, woe is me track on it.
Well, it's a bit of a cliche, but at the same time, most bands, at least like track number 4, number 5, there's always something which completely throws off the tempo, right? To make you kind of take a breath.
Yeah. And
But yeah,
that's not even like a somber song either. It's just like it just does its thing for so long, and then you hit that ending and it just feels very like, okay, cool, now we're slowing down. And now we're kind of winding down a little bit, and then they hit you at the end with the last song. So,
yeah, my notes for Piss of Vinegar was okay song. Why was this last track?
Yeah,
I think this song is the direction they went into with Skeletons. Honestly, this is a Skeleton song to me. It's a great song, but this is a Skeleton song. If you go back and if you go to listen to Skeletons, you'll see what I mean. It's like maybe a track that they had written not for the record, but then they threw it on there. I think it's the direction they went into.
There's a ton of demos online too. I think there's like somebody had I don't know if it was like an unofficial record or whatever, but it was like the demos of Violence, and it was like different versions of the songs and like other songs that didn't get put on there. And I think there was a couple of songs that like parts I could hear got reworked into Skeleton songs and stuff. But there was a couple I was like, I didn't see him in the demo pool, so I'm like, I wonder if they just wrote these in the studio. Like they were like, these other ones really don't fit, but we really don't have time to do anything else, so let's write something to fit in there. So
yeah, there's a couple demos on the there's another release of this record that has 4 demo tracks on it. Yeah. So all right, Jay, let's do this. Let's start with you. Out of 10, what are you going to give it?
My first listen, it was a solid 5. Now I'm up in the air in the 7, probably an 8. I might actually search out this album after this recording is done, because there was enough that I enjoyed that I would probably go back to it.
Good shit.
Which is probably the most flattering thing I could say, because I'd never heard this album before, and it's going to go into probably rotation with stuff like Down the Sun, Low Pro. So what was the other one? Some of the stuff that we found, Linear 77, Earth Tone 9, like some of the stuff that we've found lately that I'm kind of really digging. It'll definitely go into that playlist.
Good shit. All right, Jordan, how about you?
I'm very biased, and I would love to just give this a straight up 10, but I know that like there's a lot of like in rating systems that's kind of frowned upon. Like, so I'll give it like a 9.5. Just for small, like literally small things. Like I feel like the last 2 tracks could have been flipped, and I feel like there's a little bit of filler, but all around, I think as a whole, if you don't dissect it track by track and you just absorb it as one entity, it's perfect. Like it's just a solid listen all the way through. Like you understand, like songs that may not seem like they stick out at first, either stick out to you later, or they just make sense in the grand scheme of things. So I'll give it like a 9.5, because I'm just very like, I'm biased that this is like my favorite record. So
I'm going to go against the grain and say, I don't care who frowns. This is a 10 out of 10 for me.
You're gonna take 10 out of 10.
This record's perfect for me. I love it, man.
Hey, you know what? It's each his own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just can't. I mean, I don't really care who thinks it's a frown, but I love it.
And there were part of my notes that I put that like this record didn't get very much promotion either. So it's like when people really love this record, like they mean it. Like there are people who are like, I like Iowa, like that's my favorite Slipknot record, but like they're not obsessed with it. Like with us, like with like me and this record, you had to find this record, or this record this is gonna sound really corny, but like this record almost had to like find you. And so like you kind of really had to like stumble upon this and go, oh my God, what is this? And then you get hooked into it. And it's just really funny because like I've really heard a lot of not great things about TVT. like when they were a label for bands like this before they went under. And so like people are like, oh, there was unreleased music videos for this record, and there was like 3 videos they did for this record that didn't get released. And I'm just like, man, that's so hard to believe that there's such an underground fan base for these guys because they just didn't get enough promotion.
And it's one of them things that just pisses you off.
It's one of those things that you, again, Tim and I were talking about earlier this week. I wish someone would write the book on nu metal, right? There's a lot of the books that are on nu metal were all written during that time. I would love someone to do the chronological history of nu metal, the cultural impacts, the fashion, the mainstream trends that it influenced. And then even the stuff that, this stuff, second, third tier stuff, right? Where the record labels really just kind of lost the plot.
Boy, do I have news for you. Do you know who Jason Karp is?
Why does that ring a bell?
He has like this thing called like Head to the Barricade or Heading for the Barricade. It's like this, like I think he also has like HFTB Army or something like that is his thing. But he literally just announced that he wrote a nu metal book. So
no shit.
Answered. He literally like
I'm
like this
really
definitive
curious. Guide. I'm really curious, and especially being there, I was like, yeah, I want to see what other people are coming up with, like as like the historical narrative.
And it's funny, he's like, I cover everything from like the beginning of it, like even earlier roots, like bands that inspired nu metal bands to do the nu metal thing, and then into bands now. And the only reason I saw it is because he tagged us, and he was like, oh yeah, you guys are in the book too. And I'm like,
oh, nice
fucking book, okay, cool, like that's awesome. And but yeah, that's funny you did say that, because I'm like the whole time you're like, I wish there was a book on that. I'm just like, I'm waiting to tell him because there is. And
that's awesome.
I don't know if it's probably, I think he said the US releases like later this, I think because he's from the UK. But
oh, you know what, Tim, that might be the guy we're going to be talking to.
Oh, is
probably?
it?
I think it is. Yeah, he does a zine too, right?
Yeah,
Jordan?
That's the one. That's the zine. Yeah,
and that is him. Yep. We're actually getting him on the show. Yeah,
he has a book. I forget what it's called, like Nu Metal Guide or something like that. I'm not sure what it was called. But yeah, he like tagged us. I saw the thing and I was like, man, it's crazy. Like it's an honor to be put in there. But like I'm also curious to see. I wanted to hit him up almost and be like, can I read the book? Like I really can. If we're in the book, can I get like an advanced, like a PDF or something?
Can I read like what part we're in there?
Like,
and all
can you
that
read?
Yeah.
What is our part in here? And I just want to know. But yeah, it's funny that you say that, because there's a book that's
wild. I'm definitely gonna order that thing.
I put one of the demos we were talking about in the chat.
Awesome.
And it's a great fucking song too.
Do we have any other hanging Chad topics before we take it home?
No.
All right.
We can stop the recording and talk a little bit of shit real quick.
All right. So let me hold on. Let me wrap us up. So once again, I want to thank Jordan for joining us. I want to thank everyone who's tuned in once again to listen. You can find us at newbreedpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to email, you want to talk shit, go for it. Let's do it. newbreed_podcast on both Twitter and Instagram. We're all over. We have a Facebook page, which I think we just topped like 200 people, I think, which is kind of wild. You can always find Tim and I arguing literally with each other on Nu Metal Reddit, which is kind of amusing because I'm posting
favorite shit.
I'm posting from the official account. Tim's posting from him, and we're going back and forth for the same argument that we argue about over the in the show. Jordan, for those of listeners that are looking to check out some of your material, some of the music you've done, where can they find you?
ZoneZero stuff is on stuff like Apple Music, Spotify, or even on Bandcamp. A lot of the newer stuff I think we're putting out isn't on Bandcamp yet. I don't know what we're gonna do there, but major streaming services, stuff like that. And if you catch me on social media at the number 4 all the sin, which we were just talking about, Nothingface, I post about other stuff I'm doing. I'm in way too many bands to try to read off a list or anything right now, but just random musical stuff. And so, but obviously, if you like a little bit, if you like things other than just nu metal, I do a lot of different stuff. But yeah.
I mean,
awesome.
It might take us 5 hours to talk about every band you do. So
I'll start another one in the middle of the podcast just to piss you off.
Jesus. All right. So once again, on behalf of Tim and myself, I want to thank Jordan for coming. On behalf of Jordan, Tim, and myself, we want to thank all of you listeners for tuning in. Join us again in 2 weeks for yet another episode where we discuss all things nu metal. Until that time, the New Breed Podcast is saying cheers.
Later.